Someone is lying to your face right now and you have no idea. Your partner, your boss, your best friend. Their words say one thing, but their face tells a completely different story. The truth flashes across their features for less than a quarter of a second. Blink and you miss it. Most people do. They go through life blind to what others are actually thinking, making terrible decisions based on words alone while ignoring the silent screams of the human face. I've spent my entire career decoding these hidden signals, and today I'm going to teach you exactly what to look for. Once you see it, you can never unsee it. I'll never forget the business deal that almost destroyed me. I sat across from a man who shook my hand warmly, looked me straight in the eyes and promised me a partnership that would change everything. His words were perfect. His confidence was absolute. I believed every single syllable. 3 months later, I discovered he'd been lying from the first handshake. The deal collapsed. I lost money, time, and a piece of my trust in humanity. But here's what haunted me most. When I reviewed our recorded meetings, I saw something I'd completely missed in person. Tiny flashes of expression that contradicted everything he said. The truth was right there on his face the entire time. I just didn't know how to read it. That painful lesson launched me to decades of research on human communication. I discovered that words account for only 7% of how we truly communicate. The rest lives in tone, body language, and most importantly, the micro expressions that flash across our faces before we can control them. Your face cannot lie. It can only be ignored by people who don't know where to look. Today, I'm going to make sure you're never that person again. Let me ask you something uncomfortable. How many times have you been completely blindsided by someone's true intentions? How many relationships ended and you never saw it coming? How many deals went bad because you trusted the wrong person? How many times have you replayed a conversation thinking something felt off, but you couldn't identify what? Most people walk through life essentially deaf to half of human communication. They hear words and take them at face value, completely missing the emotional subtitles playing across every human face. And this blindness costs them everything. Think about your last argument with someone you love. You ask if something was wrong and they said they were fine. The word fine came out of their mouth, so you accepted it and moved on. But something nagged at you. Something felt incomplete. You ignored that instinct because you didn't have evidence to contradict their words. Here's what was actually happening. While they said fine, their face told a completely different story for approximately 1/5 of a second. Maybe the lip corner tightened with contempt. Maybe their eyebrows pulled together in concealed anger. Maybe their eyes showed sadness while their mouth performed a smile. The truth leaked through before their conscious mind could catch it and paste on an acceptable expression. You sensed this. Your subconscious registered the mismatch. That's why something felt wrong. But because you couldn't name what you saw, you dismissed your own instincts and believed the lie. This happens constantly to everyone who hasn't learned to read faces. Some of you have been manipulated by people you trusted completely because their words were so polished that you never thought to look elsewhere. Some of you have missed opportunities because you couldn't tell genuine interest from polite dismissal. Some of you have hired the wrong people, dated the wrong partners, and trusted the wrong friends because you were reading the script while ignoring the actor's true performance. I've studied human interaction across dozens of cultures for over 4 decades. I've watched politicians lie on camera, lovers deceive each other, criminals fool interrogators, and salespeople manipulate customers. The pattern is always identical. The words lie. The face tells truth, but the face speaks in a language most people never learned. Here's what makes this particularly painful. Children are actually better at detecting these signals than adults. Studies show that young children can spot lying with remarkable accuracy because they haven't yet learned to prioritize words over visual information. As we grow up, we're trained to listen to what people say and ignore everything else. We literally educate ourselves into blindness. And the people who benefit most from your blindness are the ones with something to hide. Think about that for a moment. Every time you miss a micro expression, you're giving an advantage to whoever is trying to deceive you. You're essentially volunteering to be manipulated by anyone who has practiced their verbal performance. The good news is that this skill can be relearned. Your brain already knows how to detect these signals at a subconscious level. That's why you get bad feelings about people you can't explain. That's why something feels wrong even when the words sound right. Your instincts are picking up what your conscious mind isn't trained to process. Today, I'm going to bring those subconscious skills into your conscious awareness. I'm going to teach you the language your face has been speaking since birth, but your mind was never taught to interpret. Before I teach you what to look for, I need to change how you think about human communication entirely. Most people operate under a dangerous assumption that causes almost all of their misreadings. They believe that what people say reflects what people feel. This assumption is not just wrong, it's backwards. Here's the truth that changes everything. Humans are not expressing creatures who occasionally hide things. Humans are hiding creatures who occasionally express things. Our default state is concealment. We spend most of our social lives managing impressions, controlling outputs, and performing acceptable versions of ourselves. Think about your own experience. How often do you say exactly what you're thinking with zero filter? Almost never. When someone asks how you're doing, you say good even if your life is falling apart. When your boss presents a terrible idea, you nod thoughtfully instead of laughing. When you're bored at a party, you pretend to be engaged instead of announcing your boredom. You do this constantly. Everyone does. It's not even conscious most of the time. Social survival requires us to project acceptable emotions while hiding unacceptable ones. We've been practicing this performance since childhood, which means by adulthood we're extremely skilled at verbal deception without even trying. But here's what most people don't realize. While we spent decades perfecting our word choices, our faces never got the memo. The face operates on a different system entirely, one that evolved millions of years before language existed. When you feel an emotion, your face responds automatically within milliseconds. This happens before your conscious mind even registers what you're feeling, let alone decides how to hide it. These automatic expressions are called micro-expressions, and they last between 1/15th and 1/4 of a second. They're incredibly fast because they're not produced by conscious thought. They're produced by the emotional brain, which operates much faster than the thinking brain. After the micro-expression fires, your conscious mind catches up and decides whether that emotion is socially appropriate. If it isn't, you replace the real expression with an acceptable one. Sad becomes fine, angry becomes calm, disgusted becomes polite. But for that tiny fraction of a second, the truth was written across your face in perfect clarity. This is why micro-expressions are so valuable. They're the one channel of communication humans haven't learned to fully control. Words can be scripted, tone can be practiced, even body language can be faked with enough training. But micro-expressions are involuntary. They're the last honest signal in human communication. Now here's the mindset shift you need. Stop listening for truth in words. Words are the official press release, carefully edited for public consumption. Start watching for truth in the face. The face is the leaked internal memo that reveals what's really happening behind closed doors. I'm not suggesting you become paranoid or assume everyone is lying. Most people aren't consciously deceptive most of the time, but everyone is performing to some degree, including the people who love you most. Understanding this isn't cynical, it's realistic, and it allows you to navigate relationships with clarity instead of confusion. When you learn to read micro-expressions, you don't become suspicious of everyone. You become better at understanding everyone. You see the fear behind someone's anger. You notice the sadness beneath their smile. You catch the moment of genuine affection that flashes before they compose themselves. You become fluent in the real language of human emotion instead of just the public translation. Now let me teach you exactly what to watch for. There are 7 universal emotions that produce recognizable micro-expressions across all human cultures. These aren't learned expressions that vary by country. They're hardwired into human biology, which means a flash of contempt looks the same whether you're in Sydney, Stockholm, or Sao Paulo. The first and most important expression to recognize is contempt. This is the most dangerous emotion to miss because it predicts deception, betrayal, and relationship destruction better than almost any other signal. Contempt appears as a one-sided mouth movement. One corner of the lip tightens and raises slightly while the other side stays neutral. It's almost like a tiny smirk, but meaner. When someone flashes contempt while speaking to you, they believe they're superior to you in that moment. They may be looking down on your idea, your intelligence, or your worth as a person. If you see repeated contempt from a romantic partner, relationship research shows this predicts divorce with over 90% accuracy. If you see it from a business partner or employee, trust is already compromised. Watch for this signal when someone agrees with you verbally. If their words say yes, but their face flashes contempt, they think your idea is foolish regardless of what they're claiming. The second expression is disgust. This shows as a wrinkling of the nose and raising of the upper lip, like smelling something rotten. In conversation, disgust indicates strong rejection of whatever is being discussed. The person finds something morally repulsive or personally offensive. Here's where this becomes useful. When you're presenting an idea or making a request, and you see disgust flash across someone's face, their verbal response is almost irrelevant. they've already rejected it emotionally. If they say they'll think about it, they're probably just being polite. Understanding this saves you from wasting time on proposals that are already dead on arrival. The third expression is anger. Real anger involves lowered and drawn together eyebrows, intense staring eyes, and tight and narrow lips. The face seems to harden and focus. Many people try to hide anger because expressing it directly is socially costly, but it leaks through in micro expressions constantly. Watch for flashes of anger when someone claims they're not upset. Watch for it when someone says they understand your perspective. Watch for it during negotiations when the other party appears calm. Hidden anger tells you that tension exists even when the surface seems peaceful. This knowledge lets you address problems before they explode. The fourth expression is fear. Fear shows through raised and drawn together eyebrows, tensed lower eyelids, and lips that are stretched horizontally. The eyes often widen as if trying to take in more information about a threat. Recognizing fear in others helps you understand when someone feels threatened by you, your ideas, or the situation. A job candidate might verbally express confidence while their face flashes fear. A business partner might claim to be excited about a deal while fear leaks through. This doesn't mean they're lying maliciously. It means they're managing a fear response they might not even consciously recognize. Understanding their actual emotional state allows you to address concerns they haven't voiced. The fifth expression is sadness. This appears as drooping upper eyelids, loss of focus in the eyes, and a slight downward pull of the lip corners. The face seems to fall and lose energy. Sadness is often hidden because it's considered weakness in many contexts. Someone might insist they're fine while sadness flashes across their features repeatedly. Recognizing this allows you to offer support that actually matches their emotional state instead of accepting their verbal performance. Some of the most important conversations in relationships begin when someone notices sadness that wasn't being expressed in words. The sixth expression is surprise. Both eyebrows raise, eyes widen, and the jaw drops open with the mouth relaxed. Surprise is unique because it only lasts about a second even when it's not being hidden. If someone holds a surprise expression for longer than this, they're performing surprise rather than actually feeling it. This becomes useful for detecting fake reactions. When someone claims to be surprised by news they're clearly already aware of, their performed surprise will look different from genuine surprise. Genuine surprise is quick and involves the entire face simultaneously. Fake surprise often involves exaggerated features held too long. The seventh expression is happiness. Real happiness involves more than just the mouth. Genuine smiles engage the muscles around the eyes, creating crow's feet wrinkles and slightly raised cheeks. The eye involvement is almost impossible to fake voluntarily, which is why genuine smiles look so different from social smiles. When someone smiles at you with just their mouth while their eyes remain uninvolved, they're performing politeness rather than feeling warmth. When you see full eye engagement, the positive emotion is real. This distinction helps you know who actually enjoys your company versus who is managing you socially. Now here's how to practice this skill. You cannot learn to read micro-expressions through understanding alone. You need to train your visual perception through repetition. Start by watching interviews with people who were later proven to be lying. Politicians caught in scandals, criminals who maintained innocence before confessing, executives before corporate fraud was revealed. Watch these videos at half speed and look for the 7 expressions I've described. You'll start noticing flashes you missed at normal speed. These are the signals that were always there but your untrained eye couldn't catch. With practice, you'll begin seeing them in real time during actual conversations. The skill becomes automatic, like learning to read text. Eventually, you won't be able to not see them. Now I need to give you some important warnings because this skill can be misused and misunderstood. First, a single micro-expression is not proof of anything. People feel complex, overlapping emotions constantly. Someone might flash contempt while generally liking you. Someone might show fear while being completely trustworthy. Context matters enormously. What you're looking for is patterns over time and clusters of signals that paint a consistent picture. If someone shows one flash of negative emotion, notice it but don't conclude anything. If they show repeated negative expressions that contradict their words across multiple conversations, you have useful data worth acting on. Second, reading micro-expressions doesn't make you a mind reader. You're detecting emotional responses, not specific thoughts. If someone flashes anger, you know they felt a spike of anger. You don't know why. They might be angry at you, angry at themselves, angry at something unrelated that your words triggered. The expression reveals that anger is present but not its source or target. This means you should use micro-expression reading as a prompt for curiosity rather than a conclusion. When you see an expression that doesn't match someone's words, get curious, ask follow-up questions. Create space for them to share what's really happening. Don't announce that you caught them lying or feeling something they denied. That approach destroys trust and makes people defensive. Third, be careful about seeing what you want to see. Once you learn this skill, you might start interpreting every tiny facial movement as meaningful. Some movements are just twitches. Some expressions are about physical comfort rather than emotional content. Someone might grimace because of back pain, not disgust at your proposal. Develop the skill gradually and maintain humility about its limits. The goal is better understanding, not omniscience. Finally, remember that everyone deserves some privacy of thought. Just because you can detect what someone might be feeling doesn't mean you should call attention to every hidden emotion. Sometimes people hide feelings because they're processing them privately. Sometimes social performance serves important functions that shouldn't be disrupted. Use this skill with compassion. The goal isn't to strip everyone's mask away and expose them. The goal is to understand people more fully so you can respond to their actual needs rather than just their presented surface. So here's what changes when you learn to read the human face. You stop being blindsided by people who seemed trustworthy. You stop missing the signals that something is wrong in your relationships. You stop wasting time on deals and connections that were never going to work. You start seeing people as they actually are instead of as they present themselves. This isn't about becoming suspicious or cynical. It's about becoming perceptive. It's about giving yourself access to information that was always available but invisible to you. It's about respecting yourself enough to see clearly rather than choosing comfortable blindness. The truth has always been written on people's faces. Every lie, every hidden fear, every suppressed feeling, every moment of genuine connection, it's all there, flashing across features in fractions of seconds, waiting for someone to notice. Most people go their entire lives without learning to see it. They make decisions based on words alone and wonder why they keep getting hurt. They trust performances and miss the reality underneath. They sense that something is wrong but can't identify what, so they ignore their instincts and pay the price. You don't have to be most people. Starting today, you can begin training your perception. Watch videos at slow speed. Study the 7 expressions until they become familiar. Practice observing people in low-stakes situations until reading faces becomes as natural as reading text. This skill takes time to develop, but every hour you invest pays dividends for the rest of your life. Every relationship becomes clearer. Every negotiation becomes more informed. Every interaction becomes richer because you're finally participating in the full conversation instead of just the verbal portion. The human face is the most honest thing about us. It can't help but tell the truth even when our mouths are lying. All you have to do is learn its language. I spent decades learning to read this silent communication. It's transformed how I understand people, how I conduct business, and how I navigate every relationship in my life. I've seen the exact moment someone decided to trust me. I've caught the instant a deal went bad before a word was spoken. I've understood what people needed when they couldn't find words to express it. This knowledge is available to anyone willing to look. The expressions are universal. The patterns are consistent. The truth is always leaking through. The only question is whether you'll train yourself to see it. Your relationships will change when you start seeing what people are actually feeling. Your decisions will improve when you stop relying solely on what people choose to tell you. Your instincts will sharpen when you learn to interpret the signals they've been detecting all along. The face doesn't lie. Learn its language and you'll never be blind to the truth again.